Morning, Marcus, Jackie. Hi, Paula. Let's knock out episode 8. Eventful night last night. Tornado sirens around midnight and time down in the basement. And then I guess there was a tornado that touched down not far from our house. There was some news and Twitter footage taken from my neighborhood where you could see a funnel cloud, so I'm kind of bummed. I guess around 2:30 a.m. there was a funnel cloud that I could have seen if I was just looking out on my back deck, and I missed it. But anyway, if you're watching today, it probably means you didn't get blown away, so that's a good thing. And I want to talk today. We're still in just Mark chapter 3, and so a couple takeaways. Morning, everybody. Cindy, Tim, hello. I think I saw my old friend Paul Walker on there. So hi, if you're still watching. So we've said get your view of God from Jesus, not from the nun that cracked your knuckles open. Morning, Richard. Not from that stoic grandparent figure that had no joy, yet lots of rules and lots of forced Bible memory or whatever it was, that you just have the cold, dark, oppressive view. We're going to get our view of God from Jesus. We also can get our view of our circumstances from Jesus, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So remember that Jesus comes, and Mark makes sure we know this is God in the flesh, so we can get our view of God in life from this Jesus character that we're reading about. And he starts off so many good things. He touches the unclean. He forgives. He leads with forgiveness. He's non-judgmental. He's inclusive. He heals. What's the word? He's not caught up in rules for the sake of rules. He's not caught up in rituals for the sake of rituals. He recategorizes all this. So then we get to the end of chapter 3. And let's say that if you, maybe you are frustrated because you're doing a lot of good things and yet you feel like the world is still against you, and you can't believe how tough it can be just to be one of the few people who does good in the world. Or maybe you're on this new faith journey, and I see this all the time at Polaris. Maybe you're on this new faith journey and you can't believe how much resistance you're getting from family and friends. It's just been this battle. You're trying to pursue God in this different way, and your family is so frustrated with you because you're abandoning some of the historical places and ways to pursue God and things like that. And I see that all the time. This message is for you. Maybe you're just in a rough season. 2020 has been a pretty rough season, and you look around and you wonder, is God mad at me? So this is hopefully going to speak to you. Maybe you're frustrated by the doubts and the faith journey or lack thereof of people that you care about. Maybe you have grown kids or whatever, and they're just making some dumb decisions, and they're not as far along in their faith as what you'd want. We're going to see this stuff in Mark 3 that Jesus goes through that's going to address a lot of that. So this probably won't be a very long one, but I think it's packed with real life stuff that we can benefit from. So here we go. Remember, we get to the end of Mark 3, and Jesus has done a lot of good things. This is God in the flesh, obviously right in the center of God's will, and he's done a lot of good. So here we go. This is Mark 3, verse 20. Then he went home, and the crowd gathered again, so that they could not even eat. So he has huge crowds that are following him. And when his family heard it, they went out to seize him, for they were saying, he is out of his mind. So the clearest reading of this is his family. He's got this huge crowd. His family is not okay with the way he's living life. And Jesus' own family is there to try to take him from the crowd and get him home because they feel like he ain't right mentally. And the scribes who came down from Jerusalem, so these are like official religious representatives from the motherland at Jerusalem, they were saying he is possessed by Beelzebub, by the prince of demons. He casts out demons. So Beelzebub being Satan. So they believe that he is like in league with Satan. So the official religious view of Jesus by the religious authorities of the day are he's possessed by a demon. His family thinks he's out of his mind. Then we're going to skip forward to verse 31. And his mother and his brothers came, and standing outside, they sent to him and called him. So basically, now we get, good morning, Will, and Shelby, hi Shelby. It specifies his mother and his brother. So sorry to my Catholic brothers and sisters, I love you, but the clearest reading of this is that even Mary, the mother of Jesus, was confused by who Jesus was and what he was doing. She thought that Jesus was basically nuts. He was out of his mind, and they were there to try to rescue the world from his ministry. They wanted to take him back home where they could care for him because he just wasn't right. So that's a mess when your family's against you. And the religious leaders, this would be like, let's just say that I'm working at Polaris, the Polaris Christian Church. That's where I'm a pastor, and I feel like I'm doing the right things, and there's some good things happening around Polaris. But then all of a sudden, the other pastors and the city hall and the school system, the local leaders of Brunswick release a statement saying, we just want you all to know that we believe that Polaris Christian Church, Pastor Alex Poindexter, they're a cult. Like if they just came up with some big crushing stuff, that would be exasperating for me. That would be heartbreaking that I'm trying to do the right thing and lead a church the right way, and then the other churches agree that we're really a cult. That's the equivalent of when it says the scribes came and officially said it is by Satan that this guy does his miracles. That would have been a very frustrating. So all that to say, Jesus has done nothing but right. He's brought a lot of good into the world, and yet at this point in time, his family's against him. Other religious leaders are against him. He has a total mess. So here's just some real life stuff to draw from that. Okay, first of all, and I say this a lot at Polaris in my sermons, your circumstances, the overwhelming biblical narrative, you might say, is that your circumstances do not reflect your standing with God. Or at least they don't necessarily reflect your standing with God. Because we're at this point, it seems like nothing's going well for Jesus. He has resistance on all sides now, even his own family. And yet he is right in the center of God's will because he is God. And everyone's against him. Or at least a lot of people are against him. He has a lot of resistance. So you can't look at your life. You just can't. Now, you can ask the question, am I doing things that make sense? Am I? But for the most part, you can't look at the problems in your life or the problems in our world as evidence that somehow you are doing something wrong. God is probably not out to get you with a string of bad luck or a string of bad circumstances. That you look at Jesus to get your view of things, and Jesus is against it right here. I mean, life is not working well for him, and yet he's right in the center of God's will. So do not fall into the trap of interpreting your circumstances based on or interpreting your standing with God based on your circumstances. Really important. And we look at Bible character after Bible character that are right in the center of God's will, and yet very difficult seasons in life come their way. So just, And that's one of the things that you need to, that I would hope you learn from Scripture itself, is that mine them dig down deep for ways to apply them to your life, because it's there. There's a lot of good stuff in these Scriptures. Let's look at another application, is that if your family or your close friends, if they don't get your journey with God, if they don't understand this new pathway that you're on, you're in good company, because neither did Jesus' family. His family didn't get what he was doing either. And I know that some of you are exploring Jesus and exploring God and exploring rituals and exploring church in a new way. And it's not familiar to the way that you were raised. It's different. There's different expressions. And that, I see it all the time. That brings huge, because your family's over here where they always have been, and you're exploring in this new way, and it brings friction. They don't understand. They're against it. They're making life hard. And I just want you to see that Jesus was right there with you, doing God's will, exploring something new. There's no guarantee that if there's a guarantee, it's probably that it's going to be tough. Okay? And then one more thing. If we read this story, if we apply it in its most clearest fashion, it's that Mary thought that Jesus was out of his mind. Now, she comes around full circle, but there was a season of life when Mary did not understand what Jesus was doing, when she thought he was out of his mind. And I say that because everyone has their own journey. And our journey takes us different places. And our journeys are high and our journeys are low. And there are seasons of doubt. And here we see Mary. The Bible says all generations will call you blessed, the mother of God. That's biblical language, okay? Obviously, then she comes around to be one of the few people who stayed with Jesus, but she went through a season of doubt, a season where she didn't understand, and so everyone has their own journey. So if you're in a season of doubt, if your grown children are in a season of doubt, if your spouse is in a season of doubt, at least look at this story and see, because I don't think this is just a story about Jesus or a story against Mary. I think it's there to show us that because by the time this was read, Mary would have been central. She would have been heroic. But we see that she has this season where she doesn't understand what God is doing. A season of doubt, a season of questioning. And so if you can look at yourself, you can look at your grown kids, you can look at your coworkers, you can look at your family members, your spouse, and see, okay, maybe they're in a season where they're not as confident in some things that like you are. They're not as confident about some things like you're confident about them at the time. It's okay, because we're all on this journey. That's what this whole thing is this journey toward understanding what God is doing in our life, toward understanding the redemption that Jesus came to bring. And so keep praying, keep working, and things will work out. Things are headed toward the redemption of all things. That's Colossians 1. So okay, that's Mark 3. And if you're in a season where you're questioning some things, because this really has been a weird year, and there's just a lot of unsettled what's going on. I hear it all the time. What in the world is going on? I think Mark 3 can help us find some hope in the midst of this craziness. I will see you again tomorrow for episode 9 on what's called Maundy Thursday of Holy Week. So we'll talk that through. What's Maundy Thursday using these Jesus stories. Have a good day.